Let her go right now!
How dare you touch me! You should not have done that.
Both of you, stop this now! Tell me honestly, is it a venomous snake bite?
Sir, we need to get her to a hospital now.
The music didn't fade out. It died. 1 second, crystal glasses were ringing under chandeliers the size of cars. A string quartet was gliding through a perfect arrangement, and 300 of the wealthiest guests in Manhattan were smiling for cameras inside the Ashcroft Grand Ballroom. The next second, every sound in the room was swallowed by a single, sharp inhale. Vanessa Laurent, the billionaire's fiancée, stood in the center of the dance floor in a sapphire gown that looked like it had been poured over her instead of stitched. Her jaw was tight, her cheeks flushed, and one heel was lifted high in the air. At her feet, kneeling beside an overturned silver tray, was a quiet maid in a plain black uniform, one hand still wrapped around a linen napkin, the other braced against the marble floor. "You touched me," Vanessa snapped, loud enough for half the ballroom to hear. "Do you have any idea what that dress cost?" "It was an accident, ma'am," the maid said calmly. "Then learn not to exist in my way." A few guests laughed under their breath. A few looked down at their glasses. No one stepped in. Vanessa shoved the maid once with the tip of her heel. Then, in front of the guests, the cameras, the investors, and the man she was about to marry, Vanessa pulled back her leg and tried to kick her. What happened next shattered the room. The maid moved faster than anyone expected. Her hand shot up and caught Vanessa's ankle in mid-air. Not roughly, precisely. Like she wasn't stopping an insult. Like she was stopping a bullet. Vanessa gasped. A champagne flute slipped from someone's hand and shattered on the marble. The billionaire, Adrian Vale, took 2 fast steps forward, his expression turning from confusion to fury. He was a man used to controlling rooms without raising his voice, but now his entire body had gone hard. "Let go of her," he said. The maid didn't even look at him. Her eyes stayed locked on Vanessa's face. Her grip tightened just above the ankle strap of the heel. Vanessa jerked once, then winced. And then the maid said, quietly enough that people had to lean in to hear it, "If I let go of your leg now, you'll be dead before this party is over." Silence. Absolute, frozen, unnatural silence. Vanessa's face emptied. Adrian's brows drew together. Guests turned so sharply toward one another that the room felt like a field of blades changing direction at once. Someone whispered, "She threatened her." Someone else said, "Call security." At that moment, every person in that ballroom believed the maid had just destroyed her own life. None of them knew she had just saved the woman everyone thought she hated. And none of them knew that what was hiding in that ballroom was far more dangerous than a public humiliation, a broken engagement, or a scandal page headline. Because 3 hours earlier, before the champagne tower, before the speeches, before the diamonds and violin music and polished smiles, the woman everyone would later call the Maid had already seen the first sign that something was terribly wrong. Her name was Naomi Reed. At 5:42 that evening, Naomi stood alone in the East Service corridor with a housekeeping cart, staring at a delivery crate that should not have been there. The label said, "Imported orchids." The crate had air holes, tiny ones, too many. Naomi looked down at the shipping tape, then at the floral company's stamp. She had spent only 6 weeks working inside the Ashcroft Grand under a temporary housekeeping badge, but she'd spent years learning how to notice what other people rushed past. Some habits came from childhood, some came from the army, and some came from surviving long enough to know that danger almost never announced itself politely. The crate was warm along one side. Flowers weren't warm. She heard footsteps and stepped back just as a catering server rounded the corner carrying stacked dessert plates. He kept his eyes down, moved too quickly, and nearly clipped the cart. "Sorry," he muttered. Naomi's gaze dipped to his right hand. A thin leather glove, only on one hand. Too unusual for kitchen staff. Too specific to be accidental. He kept walking. Naomi watched him disappear through the ballroom service doors and felt the first quiet click of instinct deep in her ribs. Then her radio crackled. "Housekeeping to East Ballroom Corridor, wet spill near VIP entrance." Naomi took one last look at the crate. A second later, she noticed something else. The security camera above the corridor was dark. Not broken. Looping. The tiny red status light blinked in the same irregular sequence again and again. She had seen that before. Not at a hotel. In Kandahar. Playback masquerading as live feed. Her jaw tightened. She should have reported it. She knew that. But 3 weeks earlier, when she had reported a suspicious access badge to a supervisor, the report had disappeared. 2 weeks earlier, she had asked why one of the night shift guards stopped showing up. No one would answer. 6 days earlier, she had found maintenance logs altered by hand. And 6 months earlier, her younger brother Daniel Reed, night security supervisor at this same hotel, had died in what management called an accidental fall. Naomi never believed it. Daniel had left her one voicemail the night before he died. She had listened to it so many times she could hear it now, even in silence. "If something feels wrong in that place, don't wait for permission. Protect people first." She had taken the housekeeping job under her mother's last name because grief hadn't given her peace and justice hadn't volunteered. She came to the Ashcroft Grand for answers. Tonight, for the first time, she thought she might be standing close to one. By 6:15, the ballroom looked like a dream built by people who had never heard the word no. Gold light flowed over marble floors. White roses climbed 30-foot pillars. A suspended ring of crystal candles floated above the center dance floor like a private constellation. At the far end of the room, a 6-tier engagement cake waited beneath mirrored panels, and in the middle of it all stood Adrian Vale. Tall, composed, perfectly fitted black tuxedo. The kind of presence that didn't need attention because attention volunteered itself. Adrian wasn't smiling as much as the photographers wanted him to. Naomi noticed that too. He greeted people warmly, but his eyes kept tracking the room, not just the cameras. He saw things, measured things, filed them away. That didn't make him harmless. Men didn't build billion-dollar empires by drifting through life half awake. But it meant he wasn't shallow enough to be simple. Vanessa, on the other hand, was easy to read. Beautiful, intelligent, socially flawless when she wanted to be, and utterly addicted to the feeling of being above other people. Naomi saw it in the way Vanessa accepted compliments without hearing them, in the way she snapped her fingers once at a waiter without realizing she'd done it, in the way she corrected a florist, not because the arrangement was wrong, but because she needed him to feel small. An hour into the party, Naomi passed with a tray of sparkling water just in time to hear Vanessa murmur to a bridesmaid, "If one more staff member breathes near me, I'm suing someone." The bridesmaid laughed. Naomi kept moving. That was how she survived in places like this. Not by disappearing, but by letting people believe she already had. At 6:48, she noticed the gloved waiter again. He was near the North Bar now, speaking to a man in a charcoal suit Naomi didn't recognize. Their conversation lasted less than 5 seconds. The suited man never touched a drink. He only slipped something into the waiter's palm and walked away toward the guest elevators. Naomi shifted her tray and changed direction. By the time she reached the elevators, the man was gone. But the guard stationed there was gone too. Post abandoned. No explanation. Her pulse kicked once. She pressed the call button and stepped into the mirrored elevator just long enough to see that the private family floor had already been accessed. One light glowed. Penthouse lounge. That made no sense. Adrian's 8-year-old daughter, Lily, was upstairs with her nanny for the first half of the event, away from the crowd until the formal toast. Naomi knew because staff had been briefed twice on privacy procedures. No one should have been going up there without authorization. She stepped out, thinking fast, when a voice behind her said, "Why are you standing around?" Vanessa. Naomi turned. "I was checking a spill near the elevator, ma'am." Vanessa's eyes traveled over Naomi's uniform like it offended her personally. "Then check it faster." "Yes, ma'am." Vanessa took 2 steps, then paused. "And if you're going to stare at people, at least learn to hide it." Naomi held her face still. "I understand." Vanessa leaned closer, lowering her voice. "No, you don't. Women like you never do. You mistake proximity for importance." Then she walked away. Naomi exhaled slowly through her nose. In another life, before discipline, before loss, before all the things pain teaches you to carry quietly, she might have answered that. Now she filed it where she filed everything else. Use later. Not emotionally, strategically. At 7:10, Adrian's daughter came downstairs. Lily Vale wore a pale silver dress and white ballet flats and held the hand of her nanny with the solemn bravery of a child told she was entering a room full of adults who mattered. Adrian's entire face changed when he saw her. The guarded executive vanished. For 3 seconds, he was only a father. He bent, fixed a loose strand of hair behind Lily's ear, and said something that made her smile. Naomi looked away. Not because it wasn't beautiful, because it hurt. Daniel had a daughter too, Ava, 9 years old. She still left the porch light on when Naomi visited, because some part of her believed dads could get lost and still find their way home if somebody remembered to leave a light. Naomi had promised Ava she would find out what happened to Daniel. That promise was the real reason she was here. Not the paycheck, not the uniform, not the questions. A promise. At 7:25, the first real crack opened. Naomi was clearing a side station near the ballroom terrace when she heard a hiss. Not from steam, not from speakers. A living sound. Soft, brief, hidden. She froze. The sound came from beneath a table dressed in floor-length ivory linen. She crouched slowly, lifted the cloth an inch, and saw nothing. Just shadows, a coiled extension cable, a silver ice bucket. Then she noticed the scrape marks on the marble. Something had been dragged there. Something narrow, contained, recent. A shadow passed behind her. She dropped the cloth and stood. The gloved waiter was 3 tables away, pretending to adjust candles. He glanced up, met her eyes, and smiled. Too calm, too empty. Not staff. Naomi started toward him. A guest cut between them. When the line of sight cleared, he was gone. At 7:32, Naomi made her first direct attempt to stop the night from getting worse. She found Martin Cole, the hotel's head of guest security, near the west entrance. "I need you to verify a staff member," she said quietly. Tall, early 40s, catering uniform, glove on one hand. He may be using a false badge. Also, the East Corridor camera feed is looping. Martin barely looked at her. "This isn't your lane." "With respect, sir, I don't think this is a housekeeping issue." He gave a short, impatient laugh. "Tonight, every issue is my issue, and I'm telling you, go polish something." Naomi held his gaze 1 second too long. He stiffened. He saw it then. Not the uniform, the person inside it. "Who are you?" he asked. "Someone telling you your perimeter's compromised." Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced down, muttered a curse, and walked away toward the loading dock. Naomi never saw him conscious again. At 7:45, the engagement toast began. Crystal rang. Guests gathered closer. Cameras turned toward the stage. Adrian lifted a glass, and the room settled around the gravity of his voice. "I built companies," he said, "because I believed vision mattered. Tonight isn't about vision. It's about trust. About choosing the person you want beside you when success stops being impressive and life becomes real." The crowd adored it. Vanessa adored it more. Naomi, moving behind the last row with a tray, scanned faces instead of listening to applause. There, near the back, the gloved waiter again. Only now, he wasn't watching Adrian. He was watching Vanessa. Then he looked at his watch. Naomi's skin went cold. She moved faster. Too late. Vanessa had stepped off the stage and into the center aisle, basking in the attention of guests circling closer for photos. One woman reached for her ring. Another asked about the designer. Someone shifted a chair. A server turned. In the small confusion of wealth moving around wealth, the thing beneath the tablecloth struck. Vanessa flinched, hardly noticeable to anyone else, but Naomi saw it. A quick jerk in the right ankle, a flash of pain, a hand flying down and finding nothing. Vanessa spun and saw Naomi nearest to her. That was enough. "You did that," Vanessa snapped. "No," Naomi said instantly, already dropping her tray. "You touched my dress all night. Security!" Vanessa shoved her shoulder. Naomi's eyes went to the floor. A narrow, dark shape vanished beneath the draped cake table. Snake. And when Vanessa lifted her leg to kick, Naomi saw the second thing that changed everything. 2 tiny puncture marks just above the silver ankle strap. That was the moment the ballroom entered the silence they would never forget. The moment Naomi caught Vanessa's leg and said the words everyone misunderstood. "If I let go of your leg now, you'll be dead before this party is over." Adrian stepped forward. "Explain, right now." "Your fiancé has been bitten," Naomi said. "Likely venomous. I'm slowing circulation. She cannot walk, she cannot panic, and nobody in this room takes another step until I know where that snake went." For 1 second, no one moved. Then half the guests recoiled in horror, the other half scoffed, and Vanessa's face twisted between outrage and fear. "That's insane," she said, but her voice had changed. It was thinner now, less certain. Naomi looked down. The skin around the punctures was already swelling. "Look at your ankle," Naomi said. Vanessa did. Her expression cracked. Adrian dropped to one knee beside them, his anger rearranging itself into focus. "What do you need?" "Pressure bandage, medical kit, antivenom if this hotel has one, though I doubt it. Call 911. Lock the ballroom doors until security confirms the threat is contained." Guests erupted at once. "You can't lock us in. There's no snake. This is absurd." And over all of it, Naomi heard the sound that made her head snap left. A service door opening. The gloved waiter slipping through it. He wasn't running. He thought the room was too distracted to notice. Naomi's stomach dropped. The bite was never the end game. It was the distraction. Her grip on Vanessa tightened as the rest of the clues slammed together in her mind with horrifying speed. The air-hold crate, the missing camera feed, the guard at the elevator. The abandoned post upstairs. The hiss beneath the table. The private family floor access. Not chaos for its own sake. Controlled chaos. To pull Adrian's eyes here, so no one would see what happened somewhere else. Naomi looked straight at Adrian. "Your daughter," she said. "Where is she right now?" Adrian went still. "In the private lounge." "Was. Maybe. You need to lock the east elevator and send 2 trusted guards upstairs now. Not hotel security. Yours." Adrian's face lost all color. He rose so fast the chair behind him tipped over. "Raphael!" A broad-shouldered man near the rear wall, private security, not hotel staff, moved instantly. "East elevator, upstairs, now," Adrian ordered. "Take Owen with you, nobody else." Raphael didn't ask why. He ran. Vanessa grabbed Adrian's sleeve. "Adrian," Naomi cut in. "If she stands, venom moves faster." "Do what she says," Adrian told Vanessa. And for the first time that night, his voice carried not charm or polish, but fear. 2 hotel guards finally arrived. One reached for Naomi. "Hands off the guest." Naomi didn't look up. "If you touch me before you get medical support, you may help kill her." The guard hesitated. Martin Cole, the head of guest security, stumbled in through the side entrance just then, pale and bleeding from the temple. Every eye turned. Adrian caught him before he fell. "What happened?" Martin swallowed hard. "Loading dock. Someone hit me. Took my master access card." Naomi closed her eyes for half a second. There it was. Proof. The room had mocked her 1 minute earlier. Now it was listening. "Tell them," Adrian said. Martin looked at Naomi, then at the swelling ankle, then at the ballroom doors. "Seal the room," he said hoarsely. "Now." Panic rolled through the guests. Naomi ignored all of it and focused on Vanessa, whose breathing was getting faster. "Look at me," Naomi said. Vanessa did, barely. "You need to stay still. You need to breathe slowly. I know you're scared." Vanessa's eyes filled with angry tears. "You think I'm taking comfort from you?" "No," Naomi said. "I think you want to live." That landed. Vanessa swallowed. Naomi shifted her hand and tore a strip from the table linen beside her. She wrapped a pressure band above the bite, firm and controlled. "How do you know how to do that?" Adrian asked. Naomi tied the knot. "Because I've done it before." That wasn't the full answer. The full answer lived years earlier in heat and dust and blood and chaos she still woke up hearing. Naomi had spent 7 years as an army combat medic. She had learned how fast bodies fail, how slow help can be, and how often dignity disappears first when people are afraid. She had also learned that the people who looked strongest in calm rooms often broke first when survival became real. But she had also failed once. A little girl in Helmand province. Snakebite. Delayed extraction. Naomi did everything right and still lost her. Since then, she had carried one private rule. If she ever had a chance to get there in time again, she would. No matter who the victim was. No matter whether they deserved her effort. No matter how the room judged her while she did it. A cry echoed from the corridor outside. Then another. Then Raphael's voice, distant but sharp. "Stop! Don't move!" Adrian turned toward the doors, every muscle locked. The ballroom became a chamber of held breath. 30 seconds later, Raphael reappeared, dragging the gloved waiter by the collar. The man's catering jacket was gone. Underneath it, he wore a dark compression shirt with a shoulder holster and an access card clipped inside his sleeve. In his left hand, Raphael carried a small black case. Martin looked once at the man and said, "That's not staff." "No," Naomi said quietly. "It isn't." Raphael dropped the man to his knees. Owen, the second guard, stepped in behind them with Lily in his arms and the nanny close behind, shaken but unharmed. Adrian crossed the floor in 3 strides and took his daughter so tightly she squeaked. He pressed his face into her hair and shut his eyes. The room changed again. This was no longer a strange scene between a rich woman and a maid. This was an attempted attack. On a family. On a room full of people. And the woman on the floor in a housekeeping uniform had seen it before everyone else. "What was in the case?" Adrian asked. Raphael set it on a table and opened it. Inside were 2 insulated vials, a compact snake hook, a folded cloth bag with air holes, and a syringe kit. A gasp moved through the guests like wind through dry leaves. Martin stared. Dear God. Naomi looked at the bag. There were at least 2 snakes in play, she said. One was released near the dance floor. This one was backup, or transport. The captive man gave a small, humorless smile. You figured that out in a maid uniform. Impressive. Adrian turned slowly toward him. Who sent you? The man said nothing. Naomi studied his face. Then she saw it. A scar near the jawline. Faint, but familiar. She had seen it in Daniel's old phone photos from a security banquet months ago. Her blood went cold. It was you, she said. He looked at her for the first time with real attention. So that's why you looked familiar. Adrian's eyes narrowed. You know him? Naomi rose to one knee, never fully releasing control of Vanessa's leg. My brother worked hotel security here, Daniel Reed. He died 6 months ago. The man smirked. Then he should have minded his own business. The words hit Naomi like a door kicked into her chest. For a second, grief tried to become rage. She didn't let it. Not yet. Adrian's voice went dangerously quiet. Name? Caleb Mercer, Martin said, recognizing him suddenly. Former private contractor. We used him on a high-risk event last year. Naomi nodded once. My brother found something, didn't he? Mercer leaned back against Raphael's grip. He found a side business. Wealthy guests, schedules, family movements. People pay a lot for patterns. Adrian's face hardened to stone. Mercer smiled at him. You'd be surprised how easy it is to hurt powerful people. You just don't go through the front door. You go through the people who think they're too important to notice who's serving them. Vanessa shut her eyes. She heard it too. The cruelty in that sentence. and the truth inside it. Paramedics arrived within minutes that felt like an hour. While they worked on Vanessa, they confirmed what Naomi had already suspected. Venomous bite, early intervention likely life-saving, movement minimized in time. One paramedic looked up at Naomi and said, "Whoever held compression knew exactly what she was doing." "Her," Adrian said, without taking his eyes off Naomi. Vanessa, now pale and trembling on the stretcher, looked at Naomi like she was seeing her for the first time in her life. "Why?" she whispered. Naomi knew what she meant. Not why did you treat the bite? Why did you save me after the way I treated you? Naomi answered without drama. Because who you were to me in that moment wasn't the woman insulting me. You were the person in danger. Vanessa's lower lip trembled once. Then she looked away, ashamed in a way expensive people almost never allow themselves to be seen. When the paramedics wheeled her toward the exit, she caught Naomi's wrist. "I was wrong about you," she said, barely audible. "In every possible way." Naomi gave one small nod. "Get to the hospital." After the doors closed behind the stretcher, the ballroom stood in ruins of silence. Not physical ruins, moral ones, social ones. The sort that don't stain carpet, but still leave a room unrecognizable. Guests who had laughed earlier now couldn't meet Naomi's eyes. The bridesmaid who had smirked at Vanessa's joke stared at the floor. The investors who had leaned back for entertainment now looked like men who had accidentally witnessed their own character in a mirror and hated the angle. Adrian handed Lily gently back to her nanny and walked toward Naomi. No cameras flashed. No one moved. The richest man in the room stopped in front of the woman everyone had mistaken for powerless. Naomi rose slowly to her feet. She was tired now. The kind of tired that settles in the bones after adrenaline leaves and truth stays behind. Her sleeve was torn. Her hair had come loose. There was a smear of champagne on one cuff, and venom risk still in the air somewhere beyond the ballroom doors. She looked nothing like the center of a luxury event. And yet every eye in the room was on her. Adrian spoke carefully, like a man aware that anything less than honesty would humiliate him more than silence. "When this started," he said, "I thought you had crossed a line." Naomi said nothing. He continued, voice stronger now, carrying to every corner of the room. "The truth is, you were the only person here who saw the line before the rest of us stepped over it." He turned slightly, not away from her, but outward, toward his guests. "I built a life in rooms like this. Rooms where status gets mistaken for value. Where people assume the loudest person is the most important, the best-dressed person is the most trustworthy, and the person serving the table is somehow beneath the people sitting at it." He looked back at Naomi. Tonight, that illusion collapsed. You could have heard a pin drop into champagne. Adrian took one step closer. "Today, the richest person in this room isn't me," he said. "It's the woman everyone here was taught not to see." Vanessa's empty chair sat under the chandelier like a verdict. A man near the back started to clap, then stopped, as if he wasn't sure he'd earned the right. Adrian didn't clap. He did something harder. He bowed his head. Publicly. Not theatrically. Not for press. Not because it looked good. Because he meant it. "I owe you my fiancé's life," he said. "Possibly my daughter's. And I owe you an apology for not recognizing who you were when it mattered. I'm sorry." Naomi hadn't expected that. Money, maybe. Offers, probably. Security interviews, certainly. But not that. not a real apology from a man powerful enough to avoid them. For the first time that night, her composure almost slipped. Almost. "My brother used to say apologies only matter if they change what happens next," she said softly. Adrian nodded immediately. "Then they will." Martin Cole stepped forward, bruised and unsteady. "Ms. Reed," he said, "if Daniel Reed was your brother, then I need to tell you something. He was investigating missing access logs before he died. He came to me once. I didn't take it seriously enough." Pain crossed Naomi's face before she could hide it. Martin swallowed. "That was my failure." Naomi looked at him for a long moment, then at Mercer being led away in restraints. For months, grief had been a locked room inside her. Tonight, one wall had cracked. Not enough to heal, but enough to let air in. "I didn't come here for revenge," she said. Mercer laughed once. "Could have fooled me." Naomi turned to him, finally letting herself look at the man who had helped erase her brother from the world. "No," she said. "Revenge would have let Vanessa die and called it balance. I saved her anyway. That's the difference between people like you and people like me." Mercer's smile vanished. That line moved through the room like truth usually does, quietly, then all at once. And then, from somewhere near the center aisle, a woman in diamonds began to clap. This time she didn't stop. Another guest joined her, then another. Within seconds, the entire ballroom erupted. Not polite applause, not society applause, real applause, heavy, emotional, uneasy, earned. Some guests were crying. Some looked wrecked by their own silence from earlier. Some clapped because relief needed somewhere to go. Some because shame did. Naomi stood in the middle of it, not smiling, not posing, not basking, just standing. That, more than anything, finished the room. Because true strength almost never announces itself. It doesn't need to. Adrian glanced toward the shattered flute, the scattered petals, the toppled chair, the half-melted candles, the beautiful room that had nearly become a crime scene, and then back to Naomi. "What happens now?" he asked. Naomi looked toward the doors the paramedics had taken Vanessa through. "Now," she said, "you decide whether this night becomes a scandal or a turning point." He understood. The hotel would face investigation. Daniel's death would be reopened. Security systems would be audited. Staff would be seen differently, or Adrian would learn nothing and deserve the lesson twice. But Naomi had done what she came to do. She had protected innocent people. She had found the thread connected to her brother. And she had forced a room built on appearances to confront what it had chosen not to see. Adrian reached into his jacket. Naomi's shoulders tightened, expecting a check, a card, some polished transaction to make the moment easier for everyone else. Instead, he pulled out Daniel Reed's old security pin. Naomi stared. Martin stepped in quietly. "We found it in the recovered access case." Adrian placed it in Naomi's hand. No speech, no performance, just return. Her fingers closed around it. For the first time all night, her eyes filled. Not completely, just enough to shine. She took one breath, then another, and when she spoke, her voice carried farther than she expected. "Character will always outshine status," she said. "Respect isn't earned by wealth. It's earned by courage, by integrity, and by what you choose to do when nobody thinks you matter." No one moved. No one interrupted. Because every person in that ballroom knew the line wasn't just meant for Mercer. It was meant for them. For how quickly they had judged. For how eagerly they had mistaken quiet for weakness. For how naturally they had accepted humiliation as entertainment, until the person being humiliated became the reason they were safe. Naomi looked once more at the room, then at Adrian, then at Lily, who gave her a tiny, solemn wave from across the floor. Naomi waved back. Then she turned and walked toward the service corridor. Not the front exit, not the cameras, not the applause. Just the corridor. Back through the door where staff disappeared when the wealthy forgot they existed. Only this time, nobody in that ballroom would ever be able to pretend they hadn't seen her. And as the door closed behind her, the chandeliers kept shining. The flowers kept breathing perfume into the air, and the city beyond the windows kept moving like nothing had happened. But inside every person left standing in that room, something had. Because sometimes the most dangerous mistake in the world is deciding too quickly who matters. And sometimes the person everyone overlooks is the only reason they live long enough to regret it. If this story moved you, subscribe now, because the next one might reveal an even darker truth hiding behind a perfect smile.